The sun of Vareth glowed cold and pale through the gray clouds, casting long shadows over the market square. The air shimmered with the soft hum of hovering carts and the quiet chatter of merchants. Yet under that calm surface, fear was alive. The people of Vareth were gathering around a small stone platform in the center of the square, their faces hidden behind masks of anger and confusion. On that platform stood two young sisters, alien girls, their blue skin glinting under the fading light. The older one, Lyra, was trembling as her younger sister, Nira, clung to her arm. The guards held them apart, and the sound of harsh voices echoed through the crowd. "She broke the code," shouted someone. "She dared to help a human," cried another. Lyra's heart pounded. She had only tried to save a child, a small human who had fallen into the river that ran beside the town. The water there was deadly to most Varathians, but not to her. She had dived in without thinking. She didn't care that the child wasn't one of her people. She just saw someone drowning and acted. But now the elders had called it treason. To save a human was to defy the old fear. Humans were seen as dangerous, unpredictable newcomers in this part of the galaxy, creatures who lived without the guidance of the code. Varathians respected power and order, and they could not understand the human way of compassion. As the crowd's noise grew louder, Nira's small voice shook. "Sister, I'm scared." "Why are they angry?" "You saved someone." Lyra's lips trembled. "Because they don't understand, Nira. They think helping others makes us weak." The guard stepped forward. "The Elder Council has spoken. The punishment is public disgrace. Let the people throw their stones so the code may remain pure." Lyra's knees gave way. She tried to speak, to beg for mercy for her sister, but the crowd didn't listen. They were afraid of the change that kindness might bring. The guards pulled Nira forward. The first stone hit the ground near her feet, sending up a puff of dust. Then, from the edge of the crowd, a human voice cut through the air. "Stop this madness." Everyone turned. A man stepped forward, tall, wearing a worn-out explorer's jacket, the kind used by human settlers in frontier systems. His name was Ethan Cole, a pilot and trader who had been stranded on Vareth weeks earlier when his ship was damaged in an ion storm. He had seen the world's fear of him, how people crossed the street when he walked by. But he had also seen Lyra jump into the river to save a boy she didn't even know. Ethan had spent his life among the stars, and he had learned one thing: courage doesn't care about species. He pushed through the crowd, his eyes blazing. "You call this justice? She saved a life, one of ours or yours. What difference does it make?" The guards pointed their shock staffs at him. "Human, this is not your affair." Ethan didn't move. "It became my affair the moment you decided compassion was a crime." The elder at the platform, a tall Varathian with silver skin and dark eyes, frowned. "You do not understand our ways, human. The code keeps our world safe." Ethan took a slow step forward. "Safe from what? From mercy? From the idea that someone who's different might still be worth saving?" Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some lowered their stones. Others looked uncertain. No one had ever talked back to the elders before, certainly not a human. Nira's wide eyes fixed on Ethan. "Please, save my sister," she whispered. "I'll do anything. I'll be your servant forever, just save her." Ethan shook his head gently. "You don't need to promise me that. No one deserves to be punished for being kind." He stepped up onto the platform. The guards moved closer, but he stood his ground. "If you need someone to punish," he said, his voice steady, "then take me instead. I'm the human she saved. Blame me." Gasps spread through the square. The elder's eyes narrowed. "You lie. The child she saved was smaller than you." "Doesn't matter," Ethan said. "She saved a human life. If you hate us so much, then put your anger where it belongs, and on me." For a moment the crowd was silent. Lyra looked at him, tears streaking down her blue cheeks. "Why are you doing this?" "Because someone has to show them what real strength looks like," Ethan said quietly. "And you already did." The elder turned to the crowd. "See how he defies us? This is why the code exists, to protect us from their chaos." But the crowd's eyes were changing. Some saw fear in the elder's words, not wisdom. Some saw the truth, a human who stood unarmed before them, defending one of their own. A young Varathian boy stepped forward, his hands shaking. "My sister was there," he said. She saw Lyra jump into the river. The human child was almost dead. If not for her, he'd be gone. The elder glared at him. "Silence!" But more voices joined in. "She didn't do wrong. She saved someone. She showed courage. The tension in the air broke like a storm. The guards hesitated, looking uncertainly toward the elder. Ethan saw his chance. He took Lyra's hand and pulled her gently down from the platform. "Come on," he whispered. "We're leaving." Nira followed close behind. The crowd didn't stop them. Some stepped aside, eyes wide with guilt or wonder. Others lowered their heads. The elder shouted for the guards to act, but none moved. The spell of fear was broken. Ethan led the sisters down a narrow street away from the square. The cold wind carried the sound of the restless crowd behind them. When they reached the edge of the market, Lyra stumbled and fell to her knees, trembling. "You shouldn't have done that," she said, her voice weak. "Now they'll come for you too." Ethan knelt beside her. "Maybe, but I wasn't going to stand by and watch good people be destroyed for doing what's right." Nira threw her arms around him, crying softly. "Thank you. Thank you," Ethan smiled sadly. "You don't need to thank me. Just promise me something. Don't ever apologize for being kind." They hid in an abandoned outpost on the outskirts of the city that night. The building was old, half buried in sand, but it offered warmth and safety. Ethan worked quietly by the light of a small lantern, trying to fix a broken transmitter. Lyra watched him. "Why do humans do this?" she asked finally. "Risk everything for someone they barely know?" Ethan looked up from his work. "Because someone has to start the change. Fear spreads fast, but courage spreads faster." Outside, thunder rolled across the desert sky. The three of them sat together, listening to the storm. Lyra's mind was a storm too. Confusion, guilt, hope. She had always believed in the code and its promise of order. But now she saw another kind of strength. The kind that didn't come from rules, but from heart. She turned to Ethan. "You could have run." "Why didn't you?" He smiled faintly. "Because you didn't either." For a while, silence filled the room. Then Nira's small voice broke it. "Will we be safe?" Ethan sighed. "Not yet, but we'll find a way. I have a ship hidden in the wastelands. If I can repair it, we can leave this place." Lyra's eyes widened. "You'd take us with you? Even after all this?" "Of course," Ethan said. "You saved one of us. Seems fair we return the favor." A faint smile touched Lyra's lips. "You're strange, human." "Yeah," he said softly. "That's what they all say." The storm outside grew stronger, wind howling against the walls. Lightning flashed across the sky, lighting up their faces. Lyra stared into the light, remembering the crowd. The stones that never fell. The fear that had turned to doubt. Maybe this was the beginning of something bigger than all of them. Maybe this was how worlds changed, not through force, but through understanding. As the night deepened, the three drifted to sleep in the flickering light, but far away in the city, the elder stood before the council, furious. "The human defied us," he said, and the people hesitated. "The code is weakening," an older voice from the shadows replied. "Perhaps the code was never meant to last forever. Perhaps we have something new to learn." The elder's hands clenched. "Then we will hunt them down before this poison spreads." Back in the outpost, Ethan stirred from sleep, his instincts sharp. He looked out the cracked window at the storm-torn desert. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew he'd protect those girls no matter what it cost. He smiled faintly to himself. Let them come. And somewhere deep inside, the first spark of something powerful began to burn. The spark of unity, the seed of a new understanding between human and Varathian. It began with a rescue. It would end with a revolution. The desert night stretched long and silent, broken only by the occasional roar of distant sandstorms. Ethan crouched near the broken window of the abandoned outpost, listening to the wind as it rattled the shutters. The storm had passed, leaving a cold, quiet world. For a few hours it had felt safe, almost peaceful. But Ethan knew better. The Varathian Council would not forget so easily. They had rules, they had pride, and they had a fear of humans that ran deep in their society. Every second they spent hiding was precious, and every second wasted might allow the Council to rally more forces. Lyra sat beside Nira, brushing sand from the younger girl's hair. Her blue skin gleamed faintly in the dim lantern light. "Do you think they'll really come?" Nira asked, her voice small. Ethan looked at the sisters and shook his head. "I don't know. But even if they do, we won't run blindly. We plan, we fight smart, and we survive together. Nira's wide eyes flicked toward him. Do humans really fight like that? Ethan chuckled softly. We do when we need to protect people we care about. The sisters exchanged a look, a mixture of hope and fear. They had never seen humans up close except for strangers passing by. And this one, Ethan, risked everything for them. The next morning, the outpost was quiet. Ethan had scouted the perimeter and found a path leading eastward, hidden among rocky hills that shielded them from sight. We move at dawn, he said. I have a plan, but it needs all of us working together. Lyra nodded. She had learned more in the past 24 hours than in all her years following the code. She realized that strength did not always come from obedience. Sometimes it came from courage, from choosing the right action even when everyone else was afraid. Hours later, they set off. The desert stretched endlessly, golden and red under the rising sun. Every step took them farther from the city, farther from the threat but also deeper into uncertainty. Sand whirled around their feet, and the wind carried whispers that sounded almost like voices. After a few miles, Ethan stopped and pointed to a ridge. That's where I hid the shuttle. If we reach it, we can leave this planet before the Council tracks us down. Nira's face lit up. A ship we're really leaving? Yes, Ethan said. And it's not just about leaving. It's about sending a message. Humans and Varathians can be more than fear and rules. We can be friends, Lyra hesitated. And if they catch us before we reach it? Ethan's eyes hardened. Then we fight smart. We use what we know about the land. Fear is strong, but strategy is stronger. The path to the shuttle was treacherous. Sharp rocks and loose sand made every step a test of balance. Lyra and Nira stumbled, but Ethan helped them along, teaching them how to move carefully, how to watch the horizon for danger. They had almost reached the ridge when the wind shifted, carrying a strange metallic sound. Ethan froze. They've found us, he whispered. Council patrols. Not many, but enough to slow us down. Lyra's heart raced. We can't let them take us back. Nira, hold my hand. The sisters linked together, and Ethan led them down a hidden path he had discovered earlier, a narrow canyon barely visible from above. They moved silently, their footsteps masked by the wind. The patrols searched loudly, shouting orders to one another, but they could not see the three fugitives. Hours passed in tense silence. Every time they paused to rest, Ethan scanned the horizon, calculating distances and angles. Lyra began to understand his thought process. Humans measured danger in steps, in probabilities, in choices. Fear was part of it, but not the main driver. Intelligence and careful observation were. As the sun dipped low in the sky, the ridge finally came into view. There, half hidden in the rocks, was Ethan's shuttle, small but fast, built for escape and survival. Nira squealed softly in delight, but Ethan held up a hand. Not yet, he said. We need to move quietly. They may be closer than we think. They crept toward the shuttle, heartbeats matching the rhythm of their careful steps. Suddenly, a shadow passed over them. Two figures, Varathian scouts moving between rocks. Ethan gestured. Hide! They dropped into a shallow crevice, sand covering their bodies. The scouts passed within meters of them, oblivious. Lyra felt her chest tighten. Her heart felt like it would burst from the tension. When the scouts finally left, Ethan whispered, That was too close. Keep moving. They reached the shuttle and Ethan quickly checked the engines. Nira clutched his arm. Are we going to fly? Yes, he said. But we need fuel and a clear path. The Council will send more after us if we're loud or careless. Lyra helped Ethan prepare the shuttle while Nira watched, fascinated. As the engines hummed to life, Ethan paused and looked at the sisters. Ready? They nodded. Lyra took a deep breath. Ready. The shuttle lifted off, gliding over the rocky ridges and into the open sky. Below, the desert stretched endlessly, the city of Varath now a distant memory. But the Council would not let them escape so easily. Above them, the stars sparkled. Ethan guided the shuttle with skill, weaving between asteroid belts and moon shadows. Lyra and Nira stared out the windows, marveling at the beauty of the universe, something they had only seen from maps or stories. Hours later, Ethan set a course for a human settlement on the nearby planet of Karis Prime. We'll be safe there for a while, he said. We can plan our next move, learn from each other, and maybe even show the Council that fear doesn't have to rule everything. The sisters looked at him with wonder. Lyra spoke first. You saved us. You could have ignored our world entirely. Why did you care? Ethan smiled. Because every life matters. It doesn't matter what planet you're from. We all share the same sky, the same stars. And sometimes saving someone isn't just the right thing. It's the strongest thing you can do. For the first time since the ordeal began, Lyra felt hope fill her chest. Maybe the code was not the only way to live. Maybe compassion, courage, and cleverness could create a new kind of strength. As they neared Karis Prime, Ethan activated the shuttle's communication array. Static filled the cabin, then a voice came through, cautious, questioning. "This is Karis Prime Orbital Station. Identify yourselves," Ethan replied calmly. "Human pilot and 2 Varathian passengers. We seek refuge and a chance to prove that cooperation is stronger than fear." There was a pause, then the voice said, "Understood. Prepare for docking." The shuttle descended smoothly, landing in the orbital station's bay. The sisters gasped at the vast human settlement. Tall towers, gleaming lights, and people of every shape, color, and species. The station was alive with motion, yet strangely calm, as though chaos had been organized into purpose. Ethan led Lyra and Nira out of the shuttle. Humans and aliens alike glanced at them, but no one shouted or threw stones. The sisters felt an unfamiliar sensation. Safety. A young officer approached Ethan. "We've been tracking signals from the desert. Are you the ones being chased by the Varathian Council?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, they punished them for saving a life." "I helped them escape." The officer's eyes widened. "That's brave. You should all be careful, but you're welcome here." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. We don't know how to thank you. Humans are so different." Ethan put a hand on her shoulder. "Different isn't bad. And you've already taught me something too. Courage isn't about following the rules blindly. It's about standing up for what's right." Nira hugged him tightly. "I want to learn to be brave like you." Ethan smiled. "You already are. You just didn't know it yet." For the first time, the sisters felt free. The weight of fear and rules that had controlled them for so long was lifted. They were safe for now, but more importantly, they had hope. Over the next days, they met others who had been oppressed or feared for being different. Lyra and Nira shared their story, showing the Varathians that humans could be allies, not enemies. Slowly, seeds of change were planted. Back on Varath, the council fumed. Their attempt to punish Lyra had failed. Some of the younger Varathians questioned the old ways. Maybe there was another path, one that embraced strength through compassion and courage rather than fear. Ethan, Lyra, and Nira worked together, planning missions, exploring the stars, and teaching that courage could cross species, planets, and old prejudices. The universe was vast, but the bond between them, human and Varathian, grew stronger with every passing day. And so, the story that began with fear and injustice ended with hope and unity. One human, 2 alien sisters, and a simple act of bravery had begun a change that could ripple across the galaxy. Lyra whispered to Nira as they watched the stars from the orbital station's deck. "Maybe one day humans and Varathians will stand together, not against each other." Ethan smiled beside them. "We already have, and this is only the beginning." Above them, the stars stretched endlessly, a reminder that courage, kindness, and cleverness could light even the darkest places.